Fear of seeking feedback. My framework to coach yourself through your fears. A big part of my clients are working in corporates, and the pattern I have noticed is that they do not seek feedback from peers and managers paralyzed by fears. What will people say? How will they judge me? This is the dominating thought. And of course, no action can ever come out of this thinking. So here's a framework that I have developed for you. It's called DEPRIVE. It's an acronym. D for dissect, E for examine, P for pressure test, R for reframe, I for install, V for validate, E for embed. I know it's a lot of words and a lot of letters, but I had to make the acronym so it's memorable and it makes sense. Why the word deprive? Because you will deprive your current dysfunctional thinking from the energy of your attention. So let's walk through this model. Number 1, dissect. You break the fear into a list of fearful thoughts that generate the inner state of fear. Number 2, examine. You scrutinize each fearful thought individually. Number 3, you pressure test. You challenge each thought with coaching questions. Number 4, you reframe. You see how the belief can be upgraded or reinstalled. Number 5, you install. You integrate new mental models that would have more robust logic and override previous programming. Number 6, validate. Go into the world and create experiences that would confirm the new thinking. And lastly, number 7, embed. Create systems for reinforcing new thinking. So we're going to be using the fear of asking for feedback as an example, but this framework can be used for any kind of fear. You can work and self-coach on any kind of fear yourself using this framework. Okay, let's go with the fear of asking for feedback. Step 1, you dissect. Take a piece of paper and list all the fearful thoughts that are contributing to your fear. For example, the fear of asking for feedback, your list could look like this. What if they think I'm a creep? What if they think I'm too nosy and I want to know their business? What if they talk to each other and it will affect my reputation? What if they perceive me as incompetent or incapable of handling constructive criticism? What if they view my request for feedback as a sign of weakness or insecurity? What if my colleagues interpret my seeking feedback as an indication of dissatisfaction or discontent with my role? Etc., etc. You can create your own list. You'll understand the method just by using these 6 fearful thoughts as an example. So we're going to work through them together. Step 2, you examine. Now take each fearful thought and study it individually. Number 1, what if they think I'm a creep? Well, what is a creep? How I really define the word creep, what it means to me. Am I actually a creep? If I define and if I have definition, am I the person who falls into this definition? Do I know anyone who I would call a creep? Am I anything like that person at all? What can I do actually, like an actual action and behavior? What could I do that would be interpreted and perceived as creepy? Thought number 2. What if they think I'm too nosy and I want to know their business? Well, what does it mean to be nosy? To be nosy, I need to be asking some inappropriate questions, getting into their private business. But do I know what would I actually be asking in the conversation? Can I come prepared with an actual list of intelligent questions? Number 3, what if they talk to each other and it will affect my reputation? Well, do I talk to others about them? Do I gossip? Do I know anyone who is gossiping? Will I ever know if someone is gossiping about me? How do I know they're not doing it right now? Can I read people's minds? Will I ever be able to know what they're thinking actually? Number 4, what if they perceive me as incompetent or incapable of handling constructive criticism? Well, am I incompetent? Do I have expertise? Do I know what I'm doing? Am I incapable of handling constructive criticism? Am I that immature? What do I know about my competence and skills? What constructive feedback have I ever gotten in my life from peers, from superiors? Number 5, what if they view my request for feedback as a sign of weakness or insecurity? Well, am I weak? Am I actually insecure? Can I know what other people are really thinking about me? Well, they can say anything to me in my face and act in any way. They could be polite, very polished, but would I ever be able to know their actual thoughts about me? Number 6, well, what if my colleagues interpret my seeking feedback as an indication of dissatisfaction or discontent with my role? Well, am I discontent with my role? Am I happy here? What are my future plans for this place? Do I have clarity for my future? Do I actually like and respect my colleagues? Who am I seeking feedback from? Why do I care about their opinions? So you can probably understand at this point what I'm doing. I am simply taking thinking one level deeper. Not just thinking the fearful thought, but analyzing it, but trying to think about my thinking. And that is the only thing that is required. If anything, this is the only thing that I want you to understand that you have that ability, the ability to think about your thinking. And then use this ability to understand the nature of the underlying thought. What you will discover will be individual to you and your thought process. There is nothing that I could write here that will be 100% true for you. And self-coaching will have its limitations, but you can still work through your thinking and do your best to understand all the details, intricacies, and undercurrents. Your understanding will be imperfect, nor it should be. Thinking is an iterative process. So turn off your inner critic and journal down your thoughts, aspiring to understand the heart of the matter. Seek to consider all angles to the best of your ability. And I say that thinking is an iterative process because the best thinking will come to you as a product of countless iterations. You will be coming back to this exercise again and again and again. And as you continue learning more about yourself, you will be improving on your thinking systems. Unpack every single fearful thought that is contributing to your state of fear in that manner. And after you have exhausted journaling at this step, just let it sit there. You can come back to it later and reread it. Just acknowledge without judgment that this is the stuff that's been sitting inside my head. This is the content of my mind for the time being. And then proceed with the step 3. Step 3, pressure test. If you work with me, it's my job as a coach to pressure test your thinking. Then if the code breaks, we erase it or upgrade it to a new thinking model. Now with AI, you can do some work without having a coach. You can leverage ChatGPT as a coaching assistant. An example of a ChatGPT prompt would be, I'm coaching myself through my fear, insert your fear. I have realized that my fear is comprised of several core fearful thoughts. I am planning to go through all my thoughts one by one and challenge them. For example, I have a fearful thought, insert your fearful thought, generate coaching questions that would challenge these specific thoughts. So let's try this with the fear of asking for feedback. Number 1, what if they think I'm a creep? Coaching question. How might seeking feedback align with your commitment to personal and professional growth? And in what ways you can communicate this intention effectively? Number 2, what if they think I'm too nosy? Coaching question. How can you reframe your approach to seeking feedback to ensure it is perceived as genuine curiosity rather than nosiness? What specific language or actions can convey this intention? Number 3, what if they talk to each other and it will affect my reputation? Coaching questions to ask. In what ways can you proactively address potential conversations among colleagues about your feedback-seeking efforts? How may you communicate the importance of constructive feedback for personal and team development? Number 4, what if they perceive me as incompetent or incapable of handling constructive criticism? Coaching question would be, how can you emphasize the strength and resilience demonstrated by someone seeking feedback as opposed to someone avoiding it? What positive aspects of your character and intentions can you highlight in this context? Number 5, what if they view my request for feedback as a sign of weakness or insecurity? Coaching question: how can you reframe the act of seeking feedback as a demonstration of strength and a commitment to continuous improvement? What examples can you provide of successful individuals who actively seek feedback in their professional lives? Lastly, what if my colleagues interpret my seeking feedback as an indication of dissatisfaction or discontent? Coaching question to ask: how can you communicate your genuine satisfaction with your role while expressing a desire for ongoing growth and development? In what ways can you link seeking feedback to your long-term commitment to contributing effectively to the organization? Once you have generated self-coaching questions, it's time to think and journal. So strip away everything that's untrue. Seek to look for flaws in logic. And trust me, there will be many. Keep reminding yourself, my current thinking is imperfect. Where can I iterate? What else I don't know? What do I need to understand here? Write diligently. The more you put into it, the more you will get out of it. And most importantly, look at the way ChatGPT is creating questions for you. Most probably you will be able to understand that mechanism and create your own coaching questions that would challenge your current thinking. Imagine that it's your best friend who is currently working through this issue. How would you coach your friend? What kind of coaching questions would you ask to inspire deep level thinking? What kind of questions would you ask to show that there's another way of thinking about that matter? Step 4, reframe. If you've done the previous steps diligently, by now you've already experienced a certain mind shift, and you will start seeing the flaws in your logic and the fact that your current unresourceful state is simply generated by your unresourceful thinking. But if you're struggling with reframing, you can again leverage ChatGPT. Here's the prompt you could use. Okay, great. Now I can see clearly that each question in my fearful thought list represents a certain mindset that is not the most effective way to think about it. For each question, generate an effective mindset. What other alternative ways of thinking are possible? How would people who don't have this fearful thought, insert your fearful thought, think? ChatGPT will spit out the result for you. Number 1, what if they think I'm a creep? Effective mindset is to embrace curiosity and growth and viewing feedback seeking as a genuine expression of curiosity and commitment to personal and professional growth. I seek feedback because I'm committed to personal and professional growth. Number 2, what if they think I'm noisy? Well, I'm genuinely interested in self-improvement, and the mindset shift is seeing feedback seeking as a demonstration of genuine interest in personal and team improvement, rather than being perceived as nosy. Number 3, what if they talk to each other and it will affect my reputation? Well, effective mindset is proactive reputation management. I'm going to be taking proactive steps to manage and communicate the importance of feedback. And thus, I will positively influence how colleagues perceive the intent behind seeking feedback, raising the culture of feedback. Number 4, what if they perceive me as incompetent or incapable of handling constructive criticism? Effective mindset is strength in vulnerability. Recognizing that seeking feedback is a sign of strength and resilience, showcasing a willingness to embrace vulnerability for continuous improvement. Number 5, what if they view my request for feedback as a sign of weakness or insecurity? Effective mindset is again commitment to continuous improvement. Mindset shift, aligning seeking feedback with a commitment to continuous improvement, making a step forward and towards personal and professional success. And lastly, what if my colleagues interpret my seeking feedback as an indication of dissatisfaction with my role? Well, I'm satisfied and committed, and the mindset shift is I'm communicating that satisfaction with the current role while I'm expressing commitment to continuous growth and reinforcing my positive and committed mindset. You get the general idea. Hopefully, you will be able to generate multiple pathways to reframe your fearful thoughts. And again, this will not be perfect, and it doesn't have to be. The idea is not to completely reprogram yourself in one sitting. Kudos to you if you can, but the objective is to integrate that idea into your core. There is always an alternative perspective. Imagine that there are people who have mastered the fear you have. What possible ways of thinking exist that are different from the ones you have? Probably you have people like that in your circle. Someone who has successfully overcome your fear. A great way to learn and absorb their mental models is to interview them. You can assume that you know the way you think. Or you can go and confirm and discover for yourself that what was their actual journey of becoming that confident human. We are born with absolute confidence, and then we grow out the mind that learns how to self-doubt. So, unlearn what you have to. Step number 5. Install. Your map of reality is always imperfect. It's just a model. It's an approximation of the ultimate reality that you can never know, and no one really ever knows. Sometimes you realize that your map of reality is missing some critical pieces. And how do you know that? Well, your map doesn't work. It doesn't get you where you want to be. It's unusable when you're trying to navigate life with it. And that means the map needs upgrades. Sometimes, on the top of the coaching efforts you're taking, you need teaching. You need some new elements of thinking that can be integrated into your belief system, into your map of reality. So we continue to use the fear of asking for feedback as an example, and what could be the examples of the different pieces of code that you can integrate into your map. For example, all feedback is a gift. If I don't get feedback, I don't see my blind spots. If I don't see my blind spots, I'm not growing. Very important element. Everyone will die. Who cares? I will die. People who judge me will die. Their children will die. Their grandchildren will die. All legacy that I'm building will eventually become dust. Nothing really matters. Then why not become better? Important piece of code is everyone is exactly like me. Others are busy thinking about themselves, just like I am busy thinking about myself. So maybe they don't really think about me that much. If I'm focusing on my what-if thoughts, I'm in the assumption. If I'm focusing on my direct experience, I'm in the real life. And a very important element is we don't know what we don't know. Sometimes just we don't know stuff that would let us see the world, life, and ourselves in a different light, etc. You're getting the ideas. Sometimes people are stuck because they have not tapped into their inner intelligence. They have never taken the time of day to really investigate and understand what is going on inside their mind. Coaching helps with that. We as coaches help people tap into their inner wisdom. However, sometimes inner intelligence is not enough. Sometimes people are stuck simply because they have never been exposed to superior models of thinking. So get yourself exposed. You can be in the mind, or you can go get the real experience. Talk to real people and expose yourself to superior models of thinking. Step 6, validate. The validation step is the phase of taking action. By this time, you have done all the thinking you could. You have identified your habitual thinking, challenged your habitual thinking, considered alternative ways of thinking, realized that your current thinking is inferior to your future thinking, just like your current thinking is superior to your past thinking, and hopefully reframed your past thinking into more functional thinking. But now it's time to exercise the new beliefs. You can be in the mind or you can go get real experience. So go get real experience. Just one conversation, that's all. One conversation that makes you feel uncomfortable. That's my ask, and that's my homework. You can take it from a coach. If you really need an excuse to talk to people, you can tell them this. My coach told me to get out of my comfort zone and do XYZ before, or XYZ more. So here I am. Go and just do it. Focus on everything that you can control. Research, prepare, design the potential flow of the conversation from the beginning to the end, knowing what will happen right from the initiation, from the reach out message, up until the moment you say thank you for your time. Everything is in the circle of your control. So just do it. Using our example of the fear of asking for feedback, research the person you want to talk to, prepare a list of thoughtful, intelligent questions, and create a thoughtful reach out message. You can research different reach out templates or just leverage ChatGPT again for crafting your own. Do it just one time. And one time will be enough for you to see. Expectations never equal reality. The reality is not what you think it is. Your reality is the reality of your mind. So you can be in the mind, or you can go see what will happen in real life. And when it comes to fear, you have only two options. You can live in the fear, or you can face it. What is your choice? Step 7, embed. The mind, once expanded, cannot shrink back. You will get experience once, and the mind shift will occur. After that, it's all about systematizing the reinforcement of the new thinking. Having a system means, number 1, having a block of time in your calendar dedicated to the activity that scares you, whether it's asking for feedback or just creating feedback loops. Number 2, having KPI. Make it measurable and trackable, and you have to be able to reflect on your experience and go back to your records and measure your progress, measure your journey. Number 3, has to be outcome oriented. You're doing what you're doing to get to a certain result. Even if the result in the beginning is very vaguely formulated. For example, to become a fearless being, that's fine. You have a certain outcome, and you can iterate on this as you progress. Lastly, number 4, accountability. It's not a system if you're not accountable to it. You can have a block of time, you can have a KPI, you can have goal setting, outcome orientation, but it's not a system if you do not honor it, if you don't respect it, if you don't follow it. Accountability is the critical piece. This is something that I always tell to my clients. Insight takes no time. Integration does. Insight takes place in a millisecond during the coaching session. It's called a light bulb moment for a reason. You are in the darkness of your ignorance, and suddenly the flash goes off, and voila, you see things in a new light. But knowing alone is not enough to create a change. One must understand. The example I always give to my coachees: smokers. Smokers know that smoking is bad for them, but they still smoke. Why? Because there is knowledge, but there is no understanding. You can know it conceptually, but if you don't live it, you don't understand it. What do I know about it? Well, I was a heavy smoker myself for 7 years, 2 packs a day. People smoke not because they are addicted. They can't break the addiction until they understand the purpose, their ultimate why, the reasoning behind what they're saying yes to in their life when they say no to inhaling poison. Same thing with the exercise. People know that sitting on the sofa, eating chips and beer, watching TV is slowly killing them. They know it, conceptually, but they don't understand it. Understanding is the mode of being. When you understand, there is no more question. Those who have the actual understanding are embodying the understanding. They are living it. That understanding is integrated into their everyday life. And that requires a system in the beginning. The step of embedding is not quite a step, it's a process of continuous integration. Thought creates emotional state. Emotional state creates behavior. Behavior creates experience. New experience, new thought. It's a loop. And this loop can be lived by design or by default. If you think all thoughts, you're going to have the habitual inner states that create the same regular experiences over and over again. But you can break the pattern and develop new thinking, and it will lead you to gaining new experience that gives birth to new levels of consciousness. You can deprive your old thoughts from the energy of your attention and channel that energy into the thoughts that build you up. Or you can continue creating your suffering, your fears, your anxieties, your insecurities. It's your choice. The mind doesn't care. Functional thinking, negative thinking, it doesn't matter for the mind. The amount of energy spent is the same. Black wolf, white wolf, who wins? The one that you feed. What you focus on expands. Let's wrap it up. Every fear is ego-based. And I have to explain it to the people I coach at the first session. The ego is not the idea I am important. The ego is the idea I am a person. The ego is the concept of self, your identity. But I is a thought. And the thought is not real. To see the unreality of thought, one must first learn how to observe it. You can only understand the mind through observation. Self-awareness is the foundational skill. And the framework that I have presented today is just a model. I called it DEPRIVE. Dissect, examine, pressure test, reframe, install, validate, embed. I could have created any kind of acronym with any variation of letters and any words. A model is just a model. It matters not. What matters are the foundational principles. Observe your thought. Understand the unreality of thought. The mind is the creator of your experience and the only thing you can ever experience. You can use the mind as a tool, and if you don't, it will use you. Focus on fearful thoughts, experience fear. Focus on creating a perspective, experience new ways of seeing. Freedom is right here, right now. You can be in the mind, or you can be in what's real. What choose you?